Pokemon Mystery Dungeon revolves around you and your partner. Y'all form a team, y'all bond, y'all become homies for life. There's a big emphasis on teamwork, as you'll have to work together to overcome some of the perils that lie in your journey. So what if we just ignored all of that? How much more difficult would this adventure be if our partner just does not contribute to anything and we do all the dirty work, essentially turning the game into a prolonged escort mission? That is what I want to find out today. So pretty much the only rule that I'm going to put up is the obvious one. My partner can't do anything beneficial, and I have to do everything alone. Yeah, and just for the heck of it, reviver seeds are now illegal. Being able to resurrect after each knockout would have made this way too easy, so we're going to rough it out for this challenge. So before any real gameplay starts, we have to take a personality quiz to determine what Pokemon we'll become, and afterwards we get to choose our partner. Now, since I want to make this a challenge, what duo did I end up picking? Well, for the most part, it doesn't really matter who the partner is as long as it's not Pikachu. His ability is static, which could paralyze opponents that make contact with him. That may actually come in handy, and we don't want that, now do we? The other choices are the starters, who all have the typical Overgrow, Blaze, and Torrent abilities. Those could never be helpful if they're just twiddling their thumbs, so pretty much we have free will over this choice. I've ultimately decided on my partner being Squirtle, as a little homage to the trope in cartoons where the turtle characters are this shy, awkward, overly cautious, nervous wreck. That is a trope, right? It's genuinely been so long since I've watched TV. His name will be Filbert, after the turtle from Rocko's Modern Life. As for the leader, well, I went back and forth with 4 options: the grass starters and Machop. All of them have very poor matchups in the main campaign. Out of the 5 major bosses, 4 of them are part flying, so this would mainly boil down to who would do the worst on their own. Well, I think Trico and Machop can safely hold their own ground, mainly because of their superior learn sets. Trico can naturally learn Absorb, Mega Drain, and Giga Drain to keep itself healthy while also being on offense. Not to mention he has Agility, one of the most busted moves in the game. He can increase his speed to attack more often. As for Machop, while his level up moves are very limited, only knowing normal and fighting moves, he more than makes up for that with the surprisingly sparse coverage he can learn from TMs. Most notably, he can acquire Rock Tomb and Rock Slide, super effective moves on most of the bosses. That just leaves Bulbasaur and Chikorita, and personally I think this comes down to preference. While Bulbasaur has neutrality to Groudon thanks to its secondary poison typing, he can learn Sleep Powder, which got buffed in this game, where it targets all of the enemies directly around the user. Chikorita is overall less powerful, but she gets Razor Leaf much earlier, and has access to dual screens. After some deep consideration, I've ultimately chosen the star of the video to be Chikorita. I love her, she's a good little bean and there's been enough hate towards her, so this will be her time in the spotlight. I named her Callaway. I got the name from one of the cows from Home on the Range. And I don't know, I think it's a nice name for a Chikorita. Was a post-production mod here. So I'm about 1/4 of the way into typing out the script, and I just realized that if I went with Bulbasaur, I could have made this whole thing one giant Pokemon talk joke. And now I really want to go back and make the change, but I can't do my girl dirty. So for funsies, here's a 10-second sample of what it could have looked like, because, man, I had so much fun making this. Hi, I'm Bulbasaur. And I'm Squirtle. And this is Pokemon... Whoa! Ugh, Squirtle, what in the world is wrong with... Oh my gosh, Squirtle! You look so... Well, everything looks so... blocky. Well, I guess that explains why you yelled just now. What? No, I'm yelling because... What the f*** happened to the floor? Okay, so, Butterfree has lost her baby Caterpie in tiny woods. How do we make sure our partner doesn't contribute? Well, there's 4 things we can do. 1, it's kind of the no-duh option, keeping Filbert away from the enemies. If he's not near any, he has no incentive to fight. Speaking of which, number 2, deselecting moves. At level 7, Filbert learns Bubble, which is a ranged attack. If an enemy were to be in that range, he might instinctively use that move. Taking that little star off of Bubble lets him know that he should never use that particular move. We are letting him know that he should never use any of his moves. Now, let's pretend he's holding an item. Even though he's not battling, he may notice that I'm low on health and throw me an Oranberry, or even use throwable items to aid in combat from afar. Well, here's where number 3 comes in. Under the team option in the menu, we can see both of us have something called Check IQ. The higher the IQ is, the more skills we can learn, and this is possible when we consume gummies. To keep myself from giving y'all an entire TED Talk, all the skills you see before you will allow our partner to do something valuable with his life. The best one to turn on is Dedicated Traveler, which means they prefer movement over fighting and items. And the final thing is Tactics. Show of hands, how many of us have actually used this? Yeah, me neither. Unlike the skills, where they're determined by IQ, this is determined by the level of the leader. At level 5, there are only 3 choices to choose from, and they don't really help us out. But the stronger Callaway grows, the more tactics she'll come up with. There's a new one every 5 levels or so. I'll give it a mention whenever a useful one pops up. While keeping all of those in mind, our partner did nothing but follow us through Tiny Woods. Although, let it be known, if Filbert does anything beneficial, we're letting the other Pokemon kill us so we can start the dungeon over. With the job well done, Filbert showed us our new home, and on that day 4th, we started a rescue team. I decided to name the team after you guys and gals and non-binary pals. I thought it'd be cute, and it has a nice little ring to it too. Anywho, some Magnemites need to be saved from Thunderwave Cave next. It's the exact same story as Tiny Woods, just keep Filbert away from the enemies. Callaway learned Razor Leaf at level 8, so you bet your sweet Bippy will be abusing its power and range. She also got to level 10 and unlocked a new tactic for Filbert, Get Away, where he runs away from every Pokemon, including me. No thank you. While traversing dungeons, we need to keep an eye on him to make sure he doesn't do anything stupid. You know, like die. After rescuing the Magnemites, Pokemon Square is unlocked. I made sure to stop by the Kecleon brothers to buy blast seeds for the upcoming dungeon and sell any illegal items in our bag. Sometimes they have just what we need, so it's best to save our money in the facility bank for when those items pop up. Papa Doug Trio is worried about his lost son, so it's up to us to save him from the bowels of Mount Steel. This is the first location that features gummies, which as previously stated increases IQ. They also have a chance to increase one of our stats. As far as I know, it's random when that buff happens and what stat gets the buff, but if we keep eating them, we might get lucky. Mount Steel is also where our first boss resides, technically a mini-boss, Skarmory. The very first thing I did was change Filbert's tactic from Let's Go Together to Get Away. You can see him immediately face the bottom left once exiting the tactics screen, so after my turn he will steer clear from the battle. Now that it's just Skarmory and Callaway, and Diglett, the game also recognizes him in this fight. If we cross the chasm and talk to him, would he say something? Does he have a text box? Sorry, the fight went down very easily. I used Razor Leaf to attack him from a distance, then once he came close enough, I ate a Blast Seed thinking it would be enough to defeat him, which it was not. A second Razor Leaf finished the job. Even with the type disadvantage, Callaway is proving she's a tough little cookie, good job. Wigglytuff Shop is now open for business. Since it was our first visit, she gave us 3 friend areas for free, one of which being Piranha Plant. The Magnemite we rescued wanted to join us earlier, and it finally can, now that it has a place to stay. But for my sanity, it's not coming along. I'm already looking after someone's every move, and we don't have any tactics to make this easier yet, so you'll be staying at your new home. Treat it like the early retirement that I'll never get. Is this the place where that Team Mod Squad is based? I like to think we are, yeah. The Caterpie we saved from Tiny Woods lost his Metapod friend in Sinister Woods, so it's up to us to rescue him. Traversing the actual dungeon was fine, but when we got to the clearing, Team Meanies just came out of nowhere and was all like, "Meh, see?" I completely forgot we had to fight them. Oh, now we have to do this alone. So it's 3-on-1. How do we go about this? Well, there's one idea that I have. The Chikorita line leans more on bulk, so what if we took a defensive approach to this? I figured we could increase Callaway's survivability first, then slowly whittle down the bullies. The very first thing I did was set up Reflect, and right after that I used Growl. That simple setup increases her defense so dramatically that sometimes the basic attack won't even damage her. Gengar immediately caught on to the plan and used Spite. You are such a jerk. There goes all of my Growl PP. Medicham is the weakest link. Not only is she 3 levels lower than the other two, but she doesn't resist Razor Leaf, so she's going down first. Ekans is a straight-up menace. He immediately starts using Leer to offset Reflect, and his Bite deals way more damage than it has any right to. I had a bit of a close one because of him, so I ate an Oranberry to heal. 3 Razor Leafs eventually took it out. Then the very next turn, I managed to one-shot Gengar. What? Okay, considering he's the leader and all, I didn't expect him to have the lowest HP out of his group. We saved the Metapod and all was dandy. The day after, Jumpluff hops over to my house, asking us to find his friend and the rescuer Shiftry from Silent Chasm. The dungeon, despite being filled with bug, poison, and flying types, was shockingly mundane. Although I did find something that shows off how crazy the power scaling can be in this game. So I came across a special band, and I immediately gave it to Callaway. What does it do? It boosts the holder's special attack stat. By how much? Correct me if I'm wrong, but it increases by 12 whole points. Earlier, I also found a Ginseng and had it slightly power up Razor Leaf. Here we have a Spinarak who has a 4 times resistance to grass, and yet when it's hit by my Razor Leaf, it gets O-code. Granted, what you saw was a crit, but still, that much damage is kinda surreal. We saved Jumpluff's friend, but Zapdos abruptly kidnaps Shiftry, and even more abruptly leaves. It'll be waiting at the top of Mount Thunder to fight us for Shiftry's freedom. The climb was a bit strenuous, the stronger enemies wear us out faster, plus this dungeon also introduces us to multi-hit attacks. So if you don't know how these work, here's an example of Beedrill using Fury Attack. It's absolutely terrifying. When reaching the peak, Zapdos challenges me to a duel, but Filbert, being a complete doofus, runs right next to him demanding to be part of the action. No sir, you need to get away and stay safe. This is between me and the turkey. The Reflect and Growl combo does work to an extent, but something I forgot to take into account was Zapdos knowing Thundershock. That's a special move. What I've been doing was making myself tanky on the physical side, so I can take normal attacks and pecks for days, but Thundershock? Nah, that still takes away like half of my health despite resisting the move. So we fainted from me being careless. Okay, let's leave the place and restock on supplies, then try again. Round 2 went much better. I started off by using 6 Growls and setting up Reflect to beef up my defense. Razor Leaf is doing decent damage even though Zapdos resists it. I'm still alarmed by how much Thundershock does to us. Still, there's no need to fear as long as we keep track of our health and heal with Oranberries. It was getting really tense near the end though. We just ate our last berry, Zapdos used Thunder Wave to paralyze us, then immediately takes us to half health with Thundershock. Whenever you get paralyzed in Mystery Dungeon, you're not allowed to use any of your moves, and you're only able to act like every other turn. In this situation, the only thing we can do is throw a Graveler Rock, and pray that it doesn't end us with a Thundershock. Luckily, that one Graveler Rock was all we needed to win the fight and rescue Shiftry. I genuinely did not expect us to win on the second try. After all that was sorted out, we traveled to the Great Canyon and traveled to the Hill the Ancients, talked to Xatu, yada yada yada. Gengar gaslit the entire town and now we're cancelled. The townsfolk chased us all the way to Lapis Cave, which went way better than I expected. Despite almost all the Pokemon resisting Razor Leaf, we got really lucky with the location of the stairs. Like really, really lucky. Like really, really, really lucky. Like we had a horseshoe up our ass, literally everything was going our way. Unfortunately, that is all about to be set aflame. Mount Blaze is one of the dungeons I'm dreading the most. The whole place is filled with fire and flying types. Razorleaf is still powerful against them, but we're not reliably one-shotting them yet. And even though Calloway is more bulky, she still takes very heavy damage from Ember. This was also the first level where not relying on our partner started to become a real problem. We get worn down super quickly by all these Pokemon that resist our strongest attack and retaliate with strong attacks of their own. What's even worse is we get burned by Ember and poisoned by Smog more often than not, and we're straight out of Pecha and Oranberries. My biggest concern, however, is the boss, Moltres. Not only does it quadruple resist Razorleaf, but as a flying and fire type, it can hit us for super effective damage on both sides of the defensive spectrum. That's not even to mention how they're just wickedly strong. Yeah, we do not stand a chance at this level. Well, the Pokemon here give us good experience. Let's grind a few levels higher and see how... They have this here. So, you know that Razorleaf is a ranged attack, and you've seen the Terror that are multi-hit attacks. Bullet Seed is a combination of both of those things. Oh yes, it is as broken as it sounds. The only drawbacks are its low PP and accuracy, but holy cannoli, Batman, they hit just as hard as Razorleaf, and you might have 5 chances to connect them in one turn. The damage output is absolutely terrifying. I'm curious to see if this one move would be enough to brute force through Moltres. Wow, that was pathetic. We didn't even have to set up Reflect, we just clicked Bullet Seed 3 times and that took him out. It still amazes me how absolutely busted some of these moves are in Mystery Dungeon. From the fiendishly fiery furnace follows the frozen fiefdom, Frosty Forest. Fortunately, despite the forename, this freezer enfolds only one foe that foiled our flowery fury. So funnily enough, we flourished through this function without any faults. As for the fight with Articuno, she's a defensive ice type, honey, we're fine.
You make a lot of assumptions.
It is plain to see we are not all in this, fam! So, you just saw Powder Snow. What used to be a low-powered move is now changed to a high-power move that hits every opponent in the room. Filbert is now in the line of fire with attacks like these, and if he goes down, so do we. So I propose to you a new strategy, which is the same strategy as the last boss, except more. Allow me to explain. Mystery Dungeon has something called the Link Box. This item allows us to link our moves together, literally letting us use more than one move in the same turn. Ergo, we link Razorleaf to Bullet Seed so our damage output increases, letting us potentially slay the Snow Queen faster before whipping out her ace too many times. I see a universe where we can clutch this on our second try. She has agility for this battle, which I completely forgot about. My gosh, that was a jump scare. She also pulled Powder Snow almost immediately. Calloway nimbly avoided it, but Filbert took heavy damage. We were just barely able to take her out with the third Razor Seed combo. I know it was short, but man, she was actually trying this time. That was terrifying. Afterwards, we befriended an Absol, who I named Ezio. I was about to send him home because keeping track of 2 teammates might be too much on my plate, but I just found out about the keep your distance tactic. I wish I knew about it sooner because this is literally tailor-made for this challenge. Watch this, multiple turns are passing, and yet neither of them are fighting back. At all. And when I move, they move. This literally turns them into an NPC, so I suppose I can make this one exception since it's now easier on my end. Anyway, thanks to our terrifying grass moves, we easily overcame Mount Freeze. Ninetales, being the impeccable lawyer she is, quickly proved our innocence, so now the entire town is canceling Gengar for false accusations. Now that our name's been cleared, we can finally go about our day as normal. The following week was a nice, easy breather. There was a Wynot and a Wobbuffet who wanted us to take care of some rowdy Mankeys. They were absolute pushovers. The Monkeys were sore losers and followed us home. We talked about it for a while, everyone went out for margaritas, and we all started renovating my house in the most egotistical way possible. Afterwards, there were a bunch of complaints about the influx of earthquakes recently, so it's up to us, and by us I mainly mean me, to traverse Magma Cavern and put a stop to it. I was expecting this to be a repeat of Mount Blaze, but it went by a lot smoother than I thought. A little too smoothly, if you ask me. Of course, Bullet Seed and Razor Leaf are hitting very hard, but I underestimated just how hard they be hitting. Granted, we're still holding the special band, but we're only in our mid-20s, and the Pokemon that resist grass are almost getting one-shot. Speaking of which, even though it's called Magma Cavern, there were not many resists here. Defensively, Callaway was shockingly well off. Neutral hits hardly put a dent in her. Daughter, ladies do not start fights, they finish them. Now do as I do. The same could be said about super effective hits too. I think the only thing that really scared me was a rock throw from Onix. That's not even to mention how massive our IQ has gotten from all the gummies we've been eating. Some of those skills we've equipped are extremely yucky. The main standout is Quick Dodger, which gives us an evasion boost. All of those things combined are insanely good. There was even a monster house we spawned into that should have struck fear into my soul, but we easily swept them because we kind of just have everything we need to deal with this dungeon. Filbert had a close call from being poisoned, but aside from that, there really wasn't anything to worry about. Effortlessly, we arrived to the lowest depths of Middle-earth, and we found someone who actually doesn't resist grass. What a loser! Oh, he got defeated before he was even able to attack. Man, that's embarrassing! All seemed well now that the earthquake subsided, but just by sheer coincidence, another problem arises. Or should I say, plummets. You know the meteorite that wiped out the dinosaurs? Yeah, the first time went so well that it's coming back for round 2. Making our final stand, Xatu and Alakazam created a teleport gem to transport us to the last dungeon of the main story, Sky Tower. Ooh, geez, this is a tough one. The Pokemon up here are naturally stronger, so our bulk doesn't hold up as well as it did back in the underground. There are also more types that resist grass, plus there's a few devious enemies that give us trouble. Namely the ghost types with their Nightshade doing decent damage, and Fortress with Explosion having our current HP. Don't even get me started on Aerodactyl. He is a complete, utter crackhead. If you see him in a monster house, GG's, that's raps. Try again. We got wiped out multiple times. That's how poorly Callaway matched up here. I also made this even harder on myself because in one of my runs, I recruited a Shuppet and a Duskull. It kinda just happened and like they were just floating so politely, I just couldn't turn them down. Let's give a warm welcome to Vince and Constance. These two were quite well behaved. They also knew how to keep your distance, and sometimes if there's an enemy nearby, they might be able to hide inside the wall for safety. Just as long as there aren't any opposing Shuppets or Duskulls. Even so, I still needed to keep an extra good eye out for them. Because of our conga line, it's unlikely we'll be able to outrun the opponents when moving from room to room. Miraculously, I was able to guide all 3 of them to the Kangaskhan statue on that run. No monster houses, just one Aerodactyl, and we got lucky with the stair locations again. Then there was climbing the summit in the second half, which was strangely fine. Yeah, the layouts became more egregious, so we spent more time finding the stairs, but that was kind of the only thing that irked me. Monster houses don't spawn up this high, and despite introducing stronger enemies like Salamence and Metagross, we could easily take them on. Most of the time we'd only be fighting one enemy, so chances are we wouldn't get overwhelmed. You know, Tropius was the most threatening one here because it quadruple resists grass, it has Flying Stab, and its ability is Chlorophyll, letting it use the same move twice in the sunlight. But I think only the second floor of the summit has sunlight. Yeah, there really wasn't any problem making it through, even with the extra teammates. Resting at the peak is the only one who can destroy the meteor, Rayquaza. We tried to explain the situation to him, but he didn't listen to a word we say, and he was being kinda prejudiced about it too, so he started to attack us. Now, as the final boss, you know he's gonna put up a worthy fight. Even with the strategies and the tricks we already have, it might not be in our favor. Well, don't you worry. I came prepared. See, in this game, Pokemon are capable of learning the same move multiple times, sometimes by level up, but this can also be done with the use of TMs. Of course, TMs can only be used once in this game. However, If you have multiple copies of the same TM, you can teach them that same move again. And also, remember the link box? Yeah, so you're not restricted to one link per box. You can link however many moves you want.
I am heavy weapons, baby. And this is my weapon.
Rayquaza has seen the error of his ways and has turned over a new leaf. He used Hyper Beam to stop the meteorite, saving the world. Nearly killing us in the process, but giving us the win. You know, I'm looking back on this, and being perfectly honest, I didn't know you could find Bullet Seed that early in the game. That made this way easier than it should have been. Come to think of it, all the grass starters can learn that attack. Man, you know, Machop probably would have been the more difficult option here. Hold up, where can we find the TMs for Rock Tomb and Rock Slide? Oh! We can find them in the sequels! I did some of my research on the wrong website, okay! You know, it really do be like that sometimes. Man! If anyone wants to try this out with Machop, please let me know when/if that video comes out. I would absolutely love to see it. I really had a lot of fun with this one. I'm hoping this does well, because I really would like to do this in the other Mystery Dungeon games eventually. As always, thanks for sticking around for this long. You know, it really does let me know that I'm making a good video. Hope you enjoyed it. I don't have anything else written down. Hope you enjoyed it. And, oh, did y'all know that there is an anime short of the original Red Rescue Team and Blue Rescue Team? And in that short, Gengar mistakenly calls Ekans Arbok. I think it's like the second time Team Meanies are on screen. It's when they're talking about berries and all that crud. You can find the video online if you want to check it out. And now, the Patreon supporters, brought to you by Maud. Lots of spaghetti and page fighting, Master Sodaru, Fossil and Triff, Gianna, Tim, Archkrika, Mitsuru, Simp, and Tabitha, Harvey, Yusef. There's Augustus Rainier, Stop Motion Stylist, Soma, Banambor RT, plus Matty OB, and Delta P is floating in Mississippi. There's Sonic Meerkat and Irony Class with UFO Sunset Pilly, Elijah Boneham and Exy the Limit, Lucan. Oh, that's shorter. Well, it's not the end of the world.